The following is a list of Moors who have been kidnapped and are being held for a demand of income. The demand of income is being made against the family as well as through fraudulent submissions of documents alleging that they are caring for the people in some sort of long-term care fashion. These Moors have been kidnapped literally off the street by employees of various corporations that are guised as counties, cities, towns, township, boroughs. These names that we have all been mentally conditioned to believe are government are not. They are exactly what they say they are. They are municipal corporations, and as such, they, if you do the research, you will find that they are foreign corporations on American soil. Therefore, they do not have standing nor jurisdiction to make a demand of income or even bring a claim against the Aboriginal indigenous people or any people on American soil, this making their actions criminal. However, as Moors, we must bring these crimes to the forefront via civil complaints against these unalienable constitutional treaty secured rights of the people, Aboriginal indigenous Moors of this land. If the municipal corporation has been provided, then we reference that along with the union state. If we don't have the municipal corporation where the employee works that actually did the kidnapping, then we just reference the union state that is bound and obligated to protect the people from foreign and domestic invasion. This list comprises Moors who have been kidnapped and are being held hostage by employees of various corporations on American soil, which is a violation of the American Constitution 1791, and it is a treaty violation, being that we're talking about Moorish Americans, Aboriginal indigenous to this land, who have been kidnapped by employees of foreign corporation on American soil. This making this an international issue because you have two nations with one nation warring against another. Therefore, this is an international issue. If you have a family member near or far within your immediate family or one of the family that you know and you would like them added to this list, please send an email to mhhseyeswideopen@gmail.com. In the subject line, put Kidnap More, and please provide us with their free national appellation, the municipal corporation that the employee is operating through that kidnapped them, along with the union state that this corporation is in purview to. We start off with our sister, Abka Ray Bay, kidnapped through a joint venture between Memphis and Shelby Corporation under the purview of Tennessee, Daoud Ill under the purview of Arkansas, Amir Muslimin Ill, Kusu Ra Kush Bay under the purview of Missouri, Asar Patah Amen Ra Bay under the purview of Ohio, Jeremy Paler Ill, Terry Thorne Bay, J. McCall Brooks Bay, Joseph Kanaday Ill, Kush Amir Bunch Ill, Emmanuel Billings Bay, Yassin Khalik Alamin Ill, Michael Curry Bay, all under the purview of North Carolina, Noble Crisco Ill under the purview of New Jersey, Messiah Aziz Ill and Crystal Ill, both kidnapped through a joint venture between Mercer, Freehold, and Trenton Corporation under the purview of New Jersey. Still waiting on an update regarding baby Patricia, or the baby of Patricia Bay, kidnapped by the Atlantic Corporation under the purview of New Jersey. Eldridge Terra Fisher Ill and Marti Sivion Ill under the purview of Indiana, Solomon Ill Bay and Mumi Abu Bay under the purview of Texas, William Barrett Ill under the purview of Virginia, Che Ray Bay under the purview of West Virginia, Thomas Lee Bay under the purview of California, Victor Eduardo Avalle Juarez Ill, kidnapped by Harlem Corporation under the purview of Georgia, Natural Tohudi Ill, kidnapped by Benner Corporation under the purview of Pennsylvania, Brian George Mills Bay, kidnapped by Blades Corporation under the purview of Florida, Judah Ill and Anwar Ill, kidnapped by Philadelphia Corporation under the purview of Pennsylvania, Ramor Ill, Amada Ill, both kidnapped by Chester Corporation under the purview of Pennsylvania, Iman Ill, kidnapped by Lynchburg Corporation under the purview of Virginia, and Khalid Albert Ill, kidnapped by Las Vegas Corporation under the purview of Nevada. Thank you very much.
All right, Islam, and welcome towards NHHS Eyes Wide Open. This is your host, Anita L., along with my co-host, Ibrahim Al-Sil.
Peace and love, Morris. Peace on the E. Peace and love.
Peace.
Keep it going. All right.
All right. And Roz Mariah Bay.
Islam, peace and love to all.
All right. And I am looking for Cujo. Let's see. Cujo, if you're there, press 1 on your telephone so I can see you. Or what?
I don't know if it was this Tuesday or next Tuesday, but I do remember he was saying something about traveling back to see his father. I don't know if it was this Tuesday or next Tuesday, though.
All right,
so,
no problem.
I think that's probably why he's not on. I forgot it might have been this Tuesday.
Not a problem. Not a problem. We can, we can go into our regular, what is it, how we start the show. To our internet listener, the chat room is open. Big shout out to our family listening near the corporate construct known as Great Britain, Islam, to the family near South Africa, near Japan, near the Netherlands, near Islam, to the Moors near the corporate construct known as France. Islam, and thank you for listening. Let's see, Islam to the family near the corporate construct known as the Philippines, Panama, Barbados, Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, Puerto Rico, near the corporate construct known as Brazil, Venezuela, Cuba, Mexico, and also to family that we have yet to connect with. Peace and love, and thank you so much for listening. All right. Before we start, tomorrow is the first Wednesday of the month, and what we're going to do is we are going to continue reading from the plethora of books we have found on modern Europeans being the slaves of that were brought over here on the slave ship. This is not. This reading is not a novel. This reading is actual documentation. So we did last Wednesday, and I believe it was the Wednesday before that. And thankfully, I'm so happy people got enjoyed it, got a lot of information, and we had a discussion, for about an hour, hour and a half, so that everyone can participate in. So I encourage you to join us tomorrow, listen in, and then, you know what, if I trust that you all are doing the appropriate research regarding the municipal corporations that are near you, because they factor into this information heavily. So make sure and join us tomorrow. Class begins at 7:30, and then we go on from there. So tomorrow will be a listening and discussion event, and then I think the following Wednesday is the second and the third Wednesday of this month. We will be in the National Theater for class. Make sure and listen out for those announcements. I just got a text that Cujo is out of town, so he's and traveling to see family. So he probably won't join us today. Thank you for that, Matt. So let's get into today's broadcast. Is entitled, "What do you do when it appears?" Let me restart. What do you do when it appears that your case law does not support your position? And I'm not saying it doesn't, but we got some haters out there who want to throw all kind of questions at the position, and the position we take is that the people rule supreme. And the American Constitution, the whole premise of it, supports and substantiates that. And not only does it support and substantiate, it secures that premise. People, their Prophet Noble Urali, before he passed, he said, "Be careful, some of your own wearing turbans will try to put you right back in place." That also goes, not only does it go for people who are wearing turbans and vests, it also goes for people who aren't wearing turbans and vests and look just like you. But you know what else? It also applies to modern Europeans, because it is your obligation to study and know exactly all inheritance and birthright is all about. Because there will be people, many of them your own, that's going to challenge you. So you must study. So we study case laws of the past, especially when they support or appear to support our position. However, if you have ever taken an issue into a competent court or a somewhat competent court, what you will discover is many of the attorneys, employees of the various municipal corporations, do your research and you'll find that out to be a fact, will challenge the case law you're using with a later case law, which may also appear to support their position. Now, you can go back and forth like this, exchanging case laws indefinitely, unless you realize and know that regardless of case law, the Moroccan American Constitution of 1791's entire premise is to secure the unalienable and inalienable liberties of all people on Moroccan American soil. So did you ever need case law? Study, study, study. That includes reading the case laws to discover, reading the case laws in their entirety to discover what the conversation is, and more importantly, who or what the parties are. Now, I'll give you the definition of inalienable, and this is out of the Black's-Law Fourth Edition Dictionary, page 903. It reads, not subject to alienation, the characteristic of those things which cannot be bought or sold or transferred from one person to another, such as certain personal rights, i.e. liberties, as well as rivers and public highways. Unalienable, which is found also in the Black's-Law Fourth Edition Dictionary on page 1693, refers you back to inalienable and reads incapable of being aliened. That means anything relative to your birthright, meaning something that no one can give you. It is yours by virtue of you being alive, meaning they cannot put a price on it, all right? Incapable of being aliened, that is sold and transferred. Now, it was brought, I don't even know how I found this, but this article written by a Moor, and I believe he's in the temple. I don't know why we just all can't get along, whether you're in the temple or not. We are people that have a birthright, that have liberty, that a price cannot be put on it. But this war has decided to throw the right to travel card under the bus and allege that the case laws being used as if we are writing them are bogus. So, I want to clear that up. I'm going to do my part to clear it up, and then I'm going to yield the floor because this is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
Indeed.
And I'm going to. The reason why I'm saying that this is ridiculous is because we are probably know what you're. Hey, we're one nation. We're one nation. It has nothing to do with you. Oh, you can't be a part of the nation unless you're a member of a temple. That's like saying modern Europeans can't run around here claiming to be Americans unless they are a member of a Christian church. A Catholic, Christian, Catholic, whatever. Your religious preference has nothing to do with your nationality. That is yours based on the blood running in your veins, based on the family that you descend from. It's got nothing to do with your religious choice. So for anybody to tear down another Moor for whatever position, just because they are not choosing or they believe that they're not a member of a temple somewhere, says to me that you're not following the prophet's work, because the prophet said this is the uniting of Asia. This is the uniting of the family. He didn't say this is the uniting of the family only through your participation in the temple. He said this is the uniting of family. Now, I do not allege to be perfect, and I do not allege to know it all. I like to, if somebody else is doing some studying and brings things to the table, it's a wonderful idea, because that's how we grow. So rather than throw darts at whatever a Moor out there is doing, we need to build together and strengthen up our position. So I'm going to comment on this article reading because it is absolutely out of harmony with the Moroccan American Constitution of 1791. The whole premise, I want to say this again, people, it is imperative. If you did not listen to the past 2 Wednesdays, I think we read from this book, Colonists for Sale. You need to listen to that recording because it lays out that the British Moors came over here, established companies/corporations, and they sort of kind of staffed them with the slaves that they had a surplus of over in Great Britain. All of these Union states, they were, look, it tells you that the Virginia, what we call the Commonwealth of Virginia today, started as the Virginia Company and also was referred to as the London Company. Guess what? It's still the Virginia Company. The only thing that has changed is that we have been mentally conditioned to believe a company/corporation is a landmass. That's the only difference between 1600 and 2007. Only difference. This is why it is imperative for you to know the history, not just the history of the Moors, but how everything came to be, which is why we've been reading these books. Because everybody doesn't have access to them. Everybody doesn't have the time, but everybody can listen. You can even do other things and listen. So this article starts out with, first, no right. No right is absolute and unqualified. For example, one of our most sacred rights, freedom of speech, which is fervently protected by the court of this nation. Stop right there. Court of this nation. What court and what nation? Law is specific. Does not encompass libel, perjury, fraud, incitement to riot, nor shouting fire in a private theater. I don't understand what that has to do with the right to travel. Then he goes on to say, limitations and restrictions are applicable to all rights, including the right to travel. And numerous court decisions explicitly recognize those limitations. Here's my question. Who is authorizing the restriction of the people in their right to travel? And who made that being ruler of all people's actions? Who did that? And just to, throw the Moors under the bus, he alleges that we're following sovereign citizen misinterpretation. Now, I don't understand how we could be following sovereign citizens when, number one, sovereign citizens are modern Europeans. They only just got here. Our right to travel precedes modern Europeans by several eons of time. That's number one. Number two, I don't know where's the sovereign land to the sovereign citizens. Because if they had, you calling them sovereign citizens like sovereign is a nationality. So where is the sovereign citizens' land? Because it sure as hell can't be here. Or they would be the true and proper Americans. Not that American is a nationality, because Moor is a nationality. All right? So then he goes on and he says, right to travel encompasses will reject, these sovereign interpretations will reject said court decisions and offer their own rulings instead. What are these alleged court decisions, and are they for flesh and blood beings? And who gave another being power to dictate one's activity? Who did that? This whole land It's free for everybody. The reason the modern Europeans can be here right now in 2017, living the way they live in now, is because we supported them in that endeavor so that they would not have somebody telling them what they can and cannot do. And now in 2017, you got a Moor talking about the modern Europeans who we allow to come here so that they can do whatever they want to do is now going to tell us what we can't. It's going to tell us that an unalienable right is now leaned. And that's all right. He then says, let's see, requiring a driver's license does not deprive anyone of the right to travel. Y'all can walk. This is what he says in the article. It does not deprive you of your right. The driver's license does not deprive anyone of the right to travel. You are free to walk, ride a bike, take a bus. You're going to need some finance for that, some Federal Reserve notes, right? Train, plane, ride in a car driven by someone else, or you can just get a license and drive a car. Now, listen. The driver's license is unconstitutional if it is being imposed on somebody who is not driving for a living. If you're going down the street to the grocery store, or how about this, you're traveling to take care of your mother or your father, that is not a commercial transaction. That is your right, all right, to restrict another human being. Oh, this basic right is unconstitutional. So let's look at the definition of driver and license. In the Black's Law Dictionary, it says driver is one who is paid to do something. And a license is permission to do something. This is absolutely unconstitutional to say that I do not have the right to get into any means of travel except to walk. I don't have that right because somebody has now leaned my liberty. And this from a war in the temple, talking about they doing the prophet's work. This is absolutely unconstitutional. Then he says there is no right to travel by the most convenient means, nor to travel by any means I want, and definitely not unrestricted in any manner. You cannot trespass to travel. Compelling one to get a driver's license is, and they're not operating in a commercial, when some other human being alleges to have the power to restrict you from doing something that doesn't interfere with anybody else, that is a trespass. Right? So, let's see. Then he says, I believe traffic, I'm going to end with this because there's just so much in here that is so absolutely wrong that it's ridiculous. Two things. These traffic infractions are still arrestable offenses, certainly in California. Well, now, who is in California? Because last I checked, California started as company/corporation and still is a company/corporation. So who's in that? Which can lead to more consequences if it results in a search incident to the arrest that ends up uncovering something that actually is considered criminal. And this has happened on numerous occasions. Let me just let you know right here, that's bullcrap right there. Because first of all right, a traffic infractions, and I got it straight from the CEO of certain Union States, traffic infractions are not crimes, therefore they're not arrestable. This guy is saying that if they stop you for a motor vehicle issue, which absolutely doesn't even apply to you unless you're in debt for a living, meaning you picking people up and you're charging them to pick them up and drop them off. That's called chauffeur, all right? If you're not a chauffeur, all right, then you can't be compelled to get a driver. You can't be compelled to get a commercial license, all right? Now, there is a case law, I believe it's called Herrera. I found it by accident. People versus Herrera. I was trying to find it because it's like one page, and basically it's so short. Find the case law, but basically what happened is Herrera was traveling in a pickup truck and was stopped by a municipal employee that was imposing a motor vehicle safety check. They do that all day long on the road. All right? Now, you're not obligated to these safety checks because you're not a chauffeur. All right? And the Herrera case, they stopped him to impose a motor vehicle safety check, and while they were doing this safety check, they found what they call a controlled substance, and they kidnapped and arrested this young son, and he appealed it, and the decision was because his automobile is not the type of automobile that is subject to a motor vehicle safety check. What they subsequently found as a result of this unconstitutional check is null and void because the search was null and void from the door. So this dude is saying, all right, traffic infractions are arrestable offenses, and if they do what is considered an illegal search of your automobile and come up with some other stuff that they have deemed criminal activity, they can arrest you. No, they cannot. They can't do that. Now, I'm gonna end with this. He references the Murdoch versus Pennsylvania. The Murdoch versus Pennsylvania, the synopsis regarding that decision, which was not written by us, but has been out there written for some time, long before we found it. In fact, this synopsis was written way back in 1943. We're just using it as of today. The whole synopsis states, no state shall convert a liberty into a privilege, license it, and attach a fee. That's the synopsis, right? This is what he wrote. This alleged quote appears nowhere in the text of this case. Nope, it doesn't, because it's a summary. Nevertheless, this case had obviously nothing to do with driver's license. It didn't. Not driver's license or the right to travel. That is correct. It was a case pertaining to the religious rights of the Jehovah's Witnesses to distribute their religious literature without it being considered commercial activity under a municipal ordinance of the city of Gwinnett, Pennsylvania, and being charged a license tax on account of it. Now, I read the case, and the summary, no state shall convert a liberty into a privilege, license it, and attach a fee. These people were going door to door to sell their religious literature. That's protected by the First Bill of Rights. That's a liberty. The fact that they are going on their own free will to sell this literature door to door, that's their right, right? The municipal corporation said they got to get a license to do that. and they got to pay a tax. The tax is the attached fee that is talked about, and no state shall convert a liberty into a privilege, license it, and attach a fee. They wanted these people to get a license because in their minds they were engaging in commerce, therefore they needed a license. The subject of this is the First Amendment right, the religious, but the whole premise is the same as the driver's license. And who is it that be imposing this driver's license and registration on the people? A municipal corporation. And they allege to do it based under state guidelines. So, yeah, summary is absolutely substantiated by the subject, which is forced license and taxation regarding an unalienable, inalienable liberty. So, yes, the quote is valid if you understand what was going on in the argument. But this guy, he's saying, oh, well, since they didn't specifically talk about driver's license and specifically talk about the right to travel, it doesn't apply. Well, guess what? Guess where else this applies? This argument applies in other areas, because if you're not engaging in commerce and you're just of your own free will, this is not your job, you're not a big corporation, this does not apply to you. And guess what? If anybody is required to get the license, and this is actually supposed to be everybody's argument right now. If anybody is obligated to get the license, it wouldn't be the individuals walking up and down the street. It would be the corporation, and they would then blanket their employees. So this guy, he's, I have a problem when people try to slander anyone who is trying to uplift fallen humanity. And because this what is being done, but it ain't only for moral, because the Constitution and law is for everybody. Everybody is getting raped by these unconstitutional demands that are being put on people. Everybody is suffering. This ain't just for more. This is for everybody. So when you got somebody who's trying to put information out there, not just for more, but for everybody, and you got other people who just want to throw darts and look for ways to pick and pull at what is being presented rather than, hey, if you got a problem with it, if you have a better way, if you have a way to improve on it, hey, we open, come talk to us, listen to us, let's sit down, build together. But don't, you in the same boat as me, and you're going to tell me, hey, if you find giving up your liberties, your birthright, that's all right. I don't have a problem with it. Don't think I'm going to give up mine. I'm not doing that. And don't get mad at me because I want to secure mine. If you don't want to secure yours, that's fine. But all of this Constitution and all of this and all of the rights of indigenous people and they all support in my position. And it's fine if you want to give yours away. But I'm not giving mine away. I'm securing mine by using the law. So I said all of that to say you don't necessarily need case law to substantiate your unalienable and inalienable rights. It does find its way to the Supreme Court, and they do not judge it or view it based on the Constitution, where we're talking about a flesh and blood human being, not a corporation/company. Then you people have a right to ignore it because that's the law. These laws are created to protect the people's right to move and operate freely, not restricted. And then we'll talk about, it's the safety of everybody. So you can stop me from being able to go and take care of my family under a presumption that I may injure somebody. That's unconstitutional. So we need to think about things as they come across our desk. Put trust and belief. You haven't heard the last of people like this, because they're all crawling from underneath the rock and are trying to attack all of the Moors that's out there active and trying to learn and enforce the Constitution and do what the Prophet charged us to do. Not just the Prophet, but our ancestors. So hats off to all the Moors that's out there upholding the Constitution and doing what the Prophet strongly suggested that you do. And I'm with you if you're with me. Islam?
Islam. So before we move on, if I may, peace and love, Islam to that, I just wanted to read. You're talking about the Constitution now. It's clear to me that from what you're saying that this person, this being who you said is in the temple, has a title or appointed or signed or however as a Grand Sheikh, and has the charge from the Prophet to enforce the Constitution, the national Constitution. He clearly says that if you do not answer up to the national Constitution, you will be molested by the other citizens on whatever, what's the word he used? Whatever, what's the word I'm looking for? It's right in his words. Well, whatever mistreatments that they wish to bestow upon you. And it's interesting because he said other citizens. And that would be, as you're saying, there's 14th Amendment citizens, which are corporations, absolutely. And that's what's happening. That, and so it's clear to me that this being did not, as you say, study enough to know the difference between a national constitution and a state constitution, and also the what is in that there ought to be no state constitution that that all state constitutions are to be in harmony with the national. Now, what I find is that if anyone has not studied the Constitution, the supreme law of the land, then how could they possibly recognize when something's with it? So this person falls smack dab into that, and it's a travesty and ought to be an embarrassment for him if, in fact, they are following the directives of the Prophet, because he told you to do so that you're not molested. What else we get from this as a result of that, therefore, they are working for the state, not the state, but they're not working for their nation. I think that's how you put it best.
Yeah.
So therefore, exactly. That is, like, they don't know that they are saying that so loud and so clear that either they don't feel like it, they're too lazy, they just don't want to study the Constitution that the Prophet told them to do, or whatever, but they are clearly saying that they are members / citizens of a quasi-national domicile, but yet at the same time calling themselves nationals. So it's a contradiction all the way. Now, what needs to be put on the table right now so that maybe he and anyone else can be real clear about that fact, because we found out that many people haven't read the Constitution, which is the law of the land, which is the directive given. And it's amazing. It's not really amazing, but when you're given that directive, you think, all right, and when you're talking about law and case laws, that at minimum that would be done, and head towards that direction. But it says on Article 6 of the Constitution, so that we can show and prove that, also show and prove that this person also clearly must think that the states have legislative power. Well, just because, or any entity established under the state or a municipal venue, has legislative powers, but if you read the Constitution, you would know that they don't. And I think that's important because if people knew that, they would realize that when they say, well, we just had a legislator, we just passed through the legislator this law, then you would clearly know that that's not possible, that is a lie because they don't have legislative power. You know, and so when you go on for generations and let that go by, then and they get used to that, and they make their finance and feed their children off of those lies based on, you know, raping the people of their liberties. That's the value. The liberties is your value. So Article 6. Not Article 6. Excuse me. Yes, Article 6. I'm looking at Amendment 6 and talking Article 6. Here says, and we got to put this on the table to continue. It says, I'm sorry, I got the wrong Constitution in front of me. How did that happen? This is a synopsis of someone understanding the Constitution. Hold on a moment. Give me a second. Shall be worth this understanding. So, if in the Constitution it tells you what states can do, what states cannot do, these are important so that you know that when something has come that doesn't match up, you recognize that's a violation. Instead, you've got these people telling you that, you know, these statutes and ordinances. Here it says in Article 6. Now, when you first read Article 6, your mind might not be thinking along, what's being said, but here's what it says. All debts contracted and engagements entered into before the adoption of the Constitution, of this Constitution, shall be as valid against the United States under this Constitution as under the Confederation. This Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof. And let me just stop. When they say shall be made in pursuance thereof, now you have to go to how a bill becomes a law, which is described in Article 1, Section 7, I believe it is, of this Constitution. So when they say which shall be made in pursuance thereof, it doesn't mean which shall be made by someone arbitrarily. It has a process for that. And so you have to read that. But it says, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Now listen to this sentence right here that follows that. It says, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything that is in the Constitution or laws of any state that is to the contrary is not withstanding. So you would have to know that and then recognize, not call somebody up and ask them, but recognize because you know what the due process and the laws are, that one, they don't have a legislative department. That's why it says that, you read the case law earlier, you said something that you can ignore it. You can just ignore it because it doesn't apply to you, because it doesn't apply, period, because it's not really a law. So this is the travesty of us going from generations after generations. Now, when we did the presentation, I had said that, look, in a minute they're going to tell you, if we continue to accept these things, knowing that they're trying to just make finance, they're going to tell you that you can't walk on the right-hand side of the street on Tuesdays. You may laugh, but it's serious. And why not if they can fine you for it? Because you believe that's law. So that's what it's headed to. This is why you have to get this into your children so that their liberties are not violated from this point forward. And if it's clear that the people who are incriminating themselves are those who say they are government entities. So, they're the ones that are violating the law. But you and I and all of us are, if we don't know it, we're allowing these violations against us. So to keep from ourselves being molested, just as the prophet said, we should know that. Now, this guy, he don't know the law of the land. The same position when you are stopped, and this is a great example, when you're hindered, and you're hindered by a municipal employee, which is a private security guard for the municipality, which, by the way, the municipality is clearly your own venue. But when you're stopped by them, after they hinder you, violate you, then they have the audacity to send you something in paperwork that says the state versus you. I mean, you should wake up right there, because it wasn't the state or anyone from the state that actually violated, that actually hindered you. So look at that lie. They can't speak for the state because they are not that. They are a separate jurisdiction operating in, quote, under and using, saying the state versus you after they themselves put their hands on it. So, we have to wake up and see that. And so I wanted to just put it on the table. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state that is to the contrary or violates or abrogates what is already written as the supreme law, it simply has no standing.
Islam. And to add on to that point, when you really just look at the whole circumstances of people campaigning for Moors to be under that jurisdiction, if you will, it really boils down to the conversation of people who have the will to be free, and then people who are basically Moriscos in this situation, who still are clinging to the principles that allude to Christianity and being subjected and things like that. Because just from out the Institutes of American Law, Bouvier's number 8, it says to make a law, there must be a superior who has authority to make it, and an inferior who is bound by it, right? And I'm just thinking, all of the Constitution, right, even the so-called state constitutions. I was having a similar conversation yesterday morning. Even to the state constitutions, quote unquote, they say that all political power is in the people, and most of them all say that no one shall be imprisoned for a debt, which you see these things going on. So this very same quote-unquote system or foundation that they're saying we're all supposed to be subjected to and give permission for necessities of life, getting from point A to point B, things like that. It really depends on, when you're talking about traveling without a license, etc., just your will to be free at the end of the day. That's what it is, because all of these things that they say, and that is clearly explicit law, unalienable, right, based off of unalienable rights, like all political power is in the people, like, you can't be in prison for quote-unquote debt and things like that. You see people in prison for these things, such as, quote, failing to pay a ticket or child support or things like that. And I say that to say that people who are exercising their right to travel are definitely not in the wrong. It's substantiated. What the primitive issue is that there is a agenda, a Christian agenda, and it's not, everybody doesn't suffer abuses from their right to travel. I mean, there's been Moors who've had situations, went to court, and those things don't even exist as far as, their record and things like that. It's, you know what I mean? It was never, those allegations don't usually stick or whatnot. But it boils down to your determination to be free. And do you feel like you're inferior to, modern Europeans? And that's, with all due respect, it is what it is on American land, because it goes back to international law, understanding that we do not share the same nationality and things like that, so, or bloodline, whatever. Therefore, like in reality, like in international law, and you see today they try to switch up the language and say multinational, but in international law, we can't be inferior in a land, when we consider all the attributes that we have: territorial jurisdiction, this being our home, not the fact we were all over the world, but understanding, your standing, your status, because status does relate to a state. So when all of these things are at the primitive root of your thinking, you realize that everything on the so-called license is not valid. And the fact that, it's a matter of identity. And when we was in the museum, the so-called African American Museum, it was saying on the wall that the only way, because you remember, you got different people, I don't know, it's crazy. Like, status is not a mere temporary relationship, as far as the state is concerned, but it's like, I guess people don't recognize themselves or not willing to actually be themselves in law, like impropria persona su juris for real, because when we were in the museum, it was talking about the fact that, the only way to distinguish the free is by fixing a perpetual brand. So when you declare your nationality or you proclaim your nationality, this is a major process of freedom, bottom line, liberty, things like that, because outside of that, you're subjected, and people think that, the aspects of slavery stop. It is unlawful, but it does still go on. And in some cases, it's worse than back then, because back then, you had people who were able to, quote unquote, literally, purchase their, quote unquote, freedom. Even though it's unalienable, they was doing it like that. Now they want to take everything in the dog. You know what I'm saying? So it's like so many different, it's just crazy. The attributes are still there. But what I'm saying is that matters of identity have matters of freedom, and when you know yourself, know thyself, your nationality, bloodline, all of these things, fall into your perspective or the reality of law being in propria persona, whereas you understand that you could never be those things, on those instruments, and the fact that a license is not a property right. And again, it goes back to the mentality of, are you free or are you a mental slave? Because you have a right to do with your property what you want. So if you own or you possess, a land conveyance or a land ship, or however you want to say, a land vessel, then you have the right to enjoy your property however you will, to dispose of it, to, possess it, whatever you want to do with it is yours. But, quote unquote, those with mental slavery, shall I say, won't think like that. They won't think like that. They'll think that, and me, since I was young, I was always curious to, like, how come after you acquire something, like, it's still paid for it still? Like, then that's crazy. You see it happen with people who, quote unquote, buy homes, and then they still have to, pay for the home forever. Like, you know what I mean? Because the Europeans are interjecting themselves, because, like I said, property can't own property. So therefore, you know what I mean? Here comes different institutions who are about that. If you're using their brand names, they got first dibs aspect. So again, it just goes back to, are you free or are you not? Will you enjoy your property and do with it as you will if it's yours? So, and if you're not in your proper person, like, mostly everything else is there, because like it said, the distinguishment can only be made by fixing a perpetual brand. So being Moors, understanding for real, and Moors been saying this for years and trying to get this to our people's head that, we're not Negro, black, and colored. Politically, to internationally make that statement on multiple levels of life in your dealings is a big deal. Like you're connected to your freedom on the record, really. So without that, I mean, you know, because these are Moriscos who at the same time, you know, will still admit or confess that or say that they're black and all of this, you know, and I understand some of our people are really like to the point of no return with that brain in their head. You know, some people are there. But what I'm saying is what makes it worse is a more in the full regalia, you know, acting as if this is the way, and they don't know the fundamental attributes around even the effects of proclaiming your nationality, the declaration, you know, the proclamation, what this is actually, what the intrinsic function of it is. This is what you have to know. So politically, you know, spiritually, internationally, for your political status, however you want to do it, you know, because like it says, you do have the right to determine your political status, but, you know, so if you want to participate in that, that's your choice, but everybody does not have to be subject, and that's just what it is. My thing is this, you know, as much as they're trying to try to come at the fact that Moors are standing on the right to travel, etc., you know, my thing is I still want to see one of these Moors who are claiming to be in the temple, respect to those who have respect for us. But what I'm saying is those who will be trying to come at us, like the quote-unquote institutions they're saying they support, are not full of it, are not fake, are not colored, like they're color of law. My thing is they still have to rebut the fact that the same people that they're trying to ameliorate have said that the Moorish Science Temple of America is a quote-unquote black Islamic sect, which is an ultimate disrespect to Prophet Noble Drew Ali, you know? So, I mean, it's a slander campaign going on, and I guess using the tactics of chameleons, sending those who look like us but, you know, are colored, they change colors and things like that. So, I mean, this is what we're dealing with. You see this happen throughout history often. Like, as soon as things are getting to really take its effect, they try to dilute situations, you know. And, again, it is what it is. So even if they are in the temple or whatnot and saying that they're repping Noble Drew Ali and, you know, whatever Moors that are not in the temple are doing is not the right way and all of this craziness here. You know what I mean? Like, you still have to give back Christianity because a lot of them are Moriscos, and that's no disrespect to all, but it's facts that they still have the Christian doctrine, the mentality of being inferior. And like it said, you know, to make a law, there has to be a superior, you know, to make it, and an inferior who is bound by it. So my thing is, how do we get to the point of accepting being inferior? Like, that's a psychological problem. Like, and that's not even to be arrogant. You know the history of Moors. You know, we're Aboriginal Indigenous here. When we look at the times now, because things are consistently changing. We're dealing with the 21st century Gregorian calendar. All right, so things are changing drastically. Law, politics, all of these things. But one thing that remains the same is, you know, the force and effect of the Constitution, treaties, all of these things. So, for example, like right now, you know, they have quote-unquote marijuana legalized, quote-unquote legalized in different places, you know, and in other places they haven't done that yet. It was never unlawful, you know what I mean? It was never unlawful. However, at this time, like, you know, it's good in some places, and other places it's just they didn't catch up yet. But I want to say this, and this is from a case, People versus Rosa, 2009. It went back to a case from the 60s, late 60s. But it says the United States Supreme Court long ago recognized that the nature of federal union and our constitutional concepts of personal liberty. Look that up, because that includes the right to travel, by any mode of conveyance, to remove yourself, to take yourself wherever you will, wherever your inclinations may direct, etc. So it says, in our constitutional concepts of personal liberty unite to require that all quote-unquote citizens be free to travel throughout the length and breadth of our land uninhibited by statutes, rules, or regulations which unreasonably burden or restrict this movement. All right, so going back to even when we was at the museum, and on the plaque it was talking about dealing with the freedom of movement, right? This is a birthright. These are restrictions, because I mean, I've seen the saddest situations when it comes to the quote-unquote license. Like in the de facto municipal court, they took a brethren's license, quote-unquote, well, not his, because it's a fact that it's not a property right. It is a permit. It is permission. And by the lawful definition, it's not a vested right. But, I mean, they took this from him for a year based off the fact that he did a wheelie or something with his dirt bike, some for no reason, basically. And it wasn't that they suspended it, like they literally told him to bring it to them, the next day. They gave him 24 hours, and it had to be there by the next morning when they opened, and to give it to them. You know what I mean? Like physically give them that instrument. Took it from him like that. And it just went to show, that, I mean, now what? Do you stop living? You still got to go do what you got to do. So the law of necessity kicks in. And, necessity always overrides law. And that's not a slight on the law, because the law protects the right to travel. So that's a fact, by any mode of conveyance. So, it is what it is. But, to courage to stop the direction of where we're going as a people, as a nation, like, being that independent nation at that. And when I say that, I mean not so reliant on what the quote-unquote Europeans say, and not to be defiant, but come on, fam. I'm sorry, if you still have faith in them at this point in history, right now, you might have psychological issues. They say that some of us are crazy and all of that, but no, come on, fam. Like, we see what's going on. You know what I mean? And it's crazy because in certain aspects, things still work out in our favor. You know what I mean? Like we mentioned the other week, Trump tried to put in the travel ban, but it was blocked because it was more so a Muslim ban, as they said, going back to the specifics of words and jurisdiction and saying things and it meaning things, meaning that when you say you're a Moor, going back to that fact that that's how the distinguishment is made between the free and slaves, or enslaved, or mental slaves, or quote property, who can't enjoy their property because their property, meaning that, everything they do, the Europeans, they don't even feel right doing it if the Europeans don't have first dibs. So that is a clear sign of people mentally enslaved, who don't see that they, are different and have the ability to have different standings in law based off of their nationality, their status, and, synonymous with the state, right? So we're talking foundation, territorial jurisdiction, and outside of that, to me, it just sounds like an acceptance of being subjected. I mean, I don't know if it's just me, but I don't have the spirit of defeat. Like, I don't feel like that. I really don't. And I don't feel arrogant, you know what I mean? I've seen that they cheated. Look, when I was 17, you know, I didn't really have problems like that until, you know what I mean, I got the so-called license instrument at first, and I was like, man, this is crazy. But I went in there, and I was fighting a situation, and the magistrate, I'm telling you, I'll never forget, the magistrate looked me dead in the face, bro, Tim, excuse me, dead in the face, and was like, just because the Constitution was written does not mean we cannot have slavery. Like, this is not word of mouth. He told this directly to me, and I didn't even bring that conversation of slavery up, but this is what the magistrate said. Now, imagine them just being, you coming in with the truth. They got to keep it 100 like that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, look, this is what it is, you know, because the European judge was rather old, if you will, or aged in years. He knew I was young, but I knew something, you know what I mean? And he told me that straight up. Just because the Constitution was written doesn't mean we can't have slavery. And that statement changed my life personally. Like, I'm 17 at the time, and I'm like, oh, shit, like, y'all still on it? Confirmed? Like, legit confirmed? That's what this is? Like, okay, I get it. You know what I mean? I definitely get it. Now, you know, so to me, the conversation boils down to that. Like, you know, what is your mind state? Like, do you know who you're dealing with? Like, do you know what they are really about? I'm not speculating. Like, the magistrate told me that straight up. So I don't be giving them like none. I don't talk like a slave. I don't, you know, speak to them in a subjected fashion. You know what I mean? Because I already know what they're going to respect and what they're not, and they still might go Christian crusade mode and you know, all of that. But I know that you got to let them know off the break that, you know, I'm not that. You know, thus declare your nationality. Because only, like it said in the clip, when we went to the museum, it's a matter of public record. This is not hidden information. This is public record, fam. Like, this is in the museum, on the National Mall. On the National Mall. This is there for you. You know what I mean? Like, go do the knowledge, man. Just do the knowledge. Not that we had to go there to do that, but I'm just saying, at this point, it's wide open. Like, it's not even hidden no more. So, again, this is just a conversation for free people and slaves. And if you want to be a slave, that is your choice. That is your choice. But, you know, it is what it is. I know that there's been a major attempt to enslave us all. That's a fact. That is a fact. But at the same time, you know, to break those conditions that weren't. And then think about this, too. They had a slave cabin up until 1981 that's, like, in that museum right now. It was still existing until 1981. Some of them still do exist. So what I'm saying is, like, that mentality still exists. It's real. And with that being said, you know, it's just a matter of how you see yourself. So, again, it says, to make a law, there must be a superior who has authority to make it and an inferior who is bound by it. To complete the definition of law, we must say that it is a rule prescribed by a lawful superior. All right, and then it goes on to say God is the first great superior. So now we're talking about the First Amendment constitutional law when it talks about religious freedom. And I say that in comparison to what you were saying earlier, or in conjunction with what you were saying earlier about, you know, taking excerpts from case laws. You're right. You know, you could go back and forth with case laws all day, but the end game is the unalienable rights. But, you know, there's nothing wrong with taking the excerpt out of a case law, because just like, you know, you could take an excerpt from the Constitution on a specific subject such as quote-unquote religious freedom, like that's an umbrella of so many different things. It's like digging in the earth, and the further that you dig in the earth, the more, you know, you recognize the value of what it is. So it goes pretty deep. So it says God is the first great superior. So again, if it takes a superior to make a law and an inferior to be bound by it, you know, if you're talking Constitution, then I don't understand, or I don't comprehend how the people who the Constitution was sanctioned for to have all the political power, which was mentioned in the Declaration of Independence, how did we get to a point where we accept, you know, being inferiors in law? I don't get it. You know what I mean? I just don't. I can't relate. I can't. I much rather am along the lines with the concept of the First Amendment and what it's saying here. God is the first great superior. Like, these people can't stop the sunshine, moonlight, you know, universal energies, you know, karma, dharma, all of these things. They can't block that. That's natural law. So, you know, I just don't see how we got to that point. And, you know, yeah, but my fault.
No, I was just agreeing.
Right on. And then it says, in order in society would not be guaranteed by the principles of human legislation if these principles were not protected by the salutary influence of true religion. And in emphasis on true religion, I've cited this a while ago, but true religion is this astrology, cosmology. And I was looking at the definition of zodiac in the unabridged dictionary the other day. Word is mine. Last week, as a matter of fact, I was looking at the definition, and in the etymology, the brackets of the word zodiac is said to be understood, to understand, right? And I'm like, well, that makes sense. That makes sense because, you know, I look above and I see the zodiac, I see the stars, and I do stand under that, so I do understand that. And it hit me a different way, like, yo, these magistrates are actually playing God, because when you go in there and they ask you questions like, do you understand, and you're looking up to these people because they're sitting up on the bench or the bank, you know, and they're asking questions as if they're God, you know what I mean? Like, and they took me back to this concept of, to make a law, there must be a superior, and then it goes into God is the first great superior. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not the inferior subjected to you. That's how I feel, and then I understand that even on, you know, them dealing with the Christian doctrine, because I also have been in situations in courtrooms where they pull out the Bible and ask you, are you to swear on the Bible? You can decline that because that's a ritual right there. But, you know, trying to get you into the Christian jurisdiction, and again, you got to know the Gnostic text, because you could go in there and beat them with the Bible if you really knew, you know, the Gnostic interpretations and things like that. I would say study, but, you know, this is what it is. This is how they get one up, because they're wearing the priest garb, so they know the Gnostic wisdom. They know when you're coming through and you're protecting yourself under the First Amendment and things like that, that it shuts the court down. They cannot move, you know what I mean? And if they try to play games with you and you stand in your square, you know what I mean, that they'll eventually start recusing themselves and all of these different things. So, I mean, me personally, I've just seen something totally different. I was, you know, like, years ago, I was exposed to just things that are just like, damn near like, wow. You know, I look back, even when, even with that situation with Taj and the building permit, you know, when they was trying to get them to get a permit, and they went down to the county, the big bad county everybody was scared of, and shut it down and got the case dismissed. A load of your building. And then I also seen how they was wicked for trying to burn, you know, the property. So I just see it two different ways. Like, I mean, not two different ways. I just know that they're colored. They're in appearance only. They appear to be legit. They appear to be government. They appear to be judges' mesh. But these people are posing, you know, specifically when they try to put a false rule or subjection on you. In the Declaration of Independence clearly is stating that all the power is in the people, and that's international law maxims. So, yeah, pardon me, I didn't mean to hog the floor, but I'm going to yield the floor for now. I want to post something else up. My reference is frozen, but it's all good. So, yeah, that's basically what it boils down to, you know. It is what it is. It is what it is.
All right.
So, yeah.
Well, all righty. Thank you so much for that. And let's see. I have the tape law that I was trying to find, Herrera. I found it. I guess I'm supposed to read it. So, and it's like not even a full page. I want to read it because this is the case, and this is the ruling. So this ain't even like somebody, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Reading the whole case and then doing a little summary blurb, all right? Now, this guy, in his little dissertation, searches are lawful. Traffic infractions are arrestable. And that anything uncovered as a result of this traffic infraction, unlawful search and seizure can then subsequently lead to other alleged criminal charges. This is his position. In the United States versus Herrera, which is 2006, April 19, it states, a Kansas state trooper pulled over defendant pickup truck to conduct a random commercial vehicle safety inspection pursuant to a state regulatory statute. Right there, let you know that all of these inspections they doing on people's automobiles is pursuant to a commercial safety inspection. Defendant's pickup truck, however, was not a commercial vehicle subject to such random inspection, about which the trooper was mistaken. The defendant was unable to produce proof of insurance, and the trooper arrested. The trooper then conducted an inventory search and discovered a controlled substance. The defendant was charged federally by a municipal employee with possession of the controlled substance with intent to distribute. He filed a motion to suppress. That was denied. He was convicted and appealed. Held. Conviction reversed and case dismissed. Rule. The traffic stop was not based on probable cause or reasonable suspicion and was not a valid administrative stop. Was not a valid administrative stop. What administrative stop would they be referring to? The administration of the Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Program, because defendant's pickup was not a commercial vehicle subject to random safety inspection. Hence, The warrantless stop was unconstitutional. Moreover, the troopers' mistaken belief concerning the statutory regulatory scheme did not save the stop, search, and seizure because the trooper had no lawful authority to make a random inspection, and there was no reasonable suspicion or probable cause. Thus, the good faith exception did not apply. Now, that's powerful. That's very powerful because what they're letting you know is what we've been telling y'all for some time now. The Motor Vehicle Safety Program is a federal program. The states are allowed to participate. This is right in there. The states then contracted to the employees of the municipal corporation to administer. North Carolina versus Rod Class affirmed that. So what they're doing, the reason that traffic infractions are non-arrestable is because the whole premise of the Motor Vehicle Safety Program, which has its beginnings in the 1887 Interstate Commerce Act, was written to protect the people initially from the railroad Mongols, then the airplane, then the automobile, then the truck. The whole premise of the Motor Vehicle Safety Program is to protect the people, not to use the program as a means of robbing the people who it is supposed to be protecting. And this being done by employees, contractors of the state who are operating so far outside of their purview when it comes to what they are supposed to be administering for the safety of the people. And what is really and truly distressing is that Prophet said, I gave you everything. It is much of what has been unveiled over the past few years. It is nailed in the coffin of every municipal corporation on this Moroccan American soil. It is the final nail in the Ferguson report tells you that they are robbing from the people and putting their finance in their back pocket. They are using a federal program as a means of robbing the people. Let me tell you how ridiculous. And people don't get it. I witnessed this, and I asked this question. There was an automobile accident. Two private, non-commercial people. One woman was at fault, the other one wasn't. The one that wasn't at fault was injured. The municipal employee comes over and says, we're going to give her a ticket. I asked, what demands are you making? What are you asking for in the ticket? Well, she has to pay the employee says, well, she'll have to pay a fee. I said, so who gets the fee? Who gets the money? Is the injured person going to get the money? No. So why are you getting the money? I'm using the word money so you know what I'm talking about. They're making a demand of income. Is the guilty person going to get the income? No. Is the injured party going to get the income? No. But you're a third party you wasn't even there, you're going to get the income? Why? Now, let me tell you what's amazing, because this is how they got people psyched up. Most people will say, because he said this. He said, we're going to make sure she gets tickets so that your insurance will pay. Well, isn't the insurance supposed to pay anyway? You see, they have us just, we don't think. We really don't. We don't think, because I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not saying us on this line, but I'm saying the vast majority of people do not think. Because if even a little bit of the people thought, this is an employee of a municipal corporation who is charged with administering a federal program on behalf of the state could never have stood there and said that foolishness to anybody. And it makes sense. That sounds like some extortion to me. You're using the injury of somebody as an opportunity to go and make a demand of income from someone who is a party to this incident that you didn't even witness. That's stuff. And extortion. And you know what? And people will hear that and they'll say, oh, great, because, I'm going to put in a claim and I want to make sure I get the maximum amount of money, because I've been injured. But it's ridiculous. You know what? The only reason they get to say crazy, stupid crap like that is because they know that they've been compelling us to go to their institution for one reason or another. And they know darn well they ain't teaching us this stuff. They ain't even teaching critical thinking no more in these institutions. You lucky if you remember anything after a year, because they ain't teaching no memory skills either. So they know they got this thing sewed up. Because we got to wake up. We got to wake up. And if we don't wake up, they're going to continue to do what they're doing. And you know what? They would be absolutely right. Because if you don't stand up for your rights, you ain't got none.
Indeed. Oh.
So, you had something else to say?
No, I was just agreeing. Well, I don't know if you had to add on.
Well, I would say this, and all this information is being shared, and it's verifiable. And I'm glad you mentioned that, the case laws in which we mentioned in regards to liberties, we didn't make them up. And people say, oh, the case laws are the Bay case laws. No, it's not that. So the people who do this are clearly, again, just not studied. They're not studied. And then I think one of you had mentioned, look, if you don't want to be about this, then don't be about it, but don't knock the next person who might want their liberties, put in check, because we have to put them in check because they have not been. And, some of the things we're saying here is just like the prophet said, "Move up porches something that you cannot tear down." So, if these people don't want their liberties, no problem, but don't knock the next person who does. And don't, fiend as if they're like fienders, just like these municipalities fiending to be government over the people. I mean, they're both, dishonest and not truth. It's not truth because it's a fiction. The whole thought is, it's like a la-la land. And I think you had mentioned that you both agreed that how the heck did it manage? How do we get to be the other end of superior to anything? how does the people get to do that when everything is written to preserve the liberties of the people themselves? So, But this was interesting because they actually took a picture of the right to travel card right off of the site and then did an article trying to say, oh, yeah, the RV Bay case laws. No, they're saying the ones that we're referencing, that would have been proper, and you broke it down on the 8 already because all case laws are done to preserve the rights of the people. Now there are some, and that we talked about that are made later, but what we have to recognize is they're not made from legislation. They're made from another perspective. They're not even they're not even laws.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's right.
So do you think that it is, as I said, it is because the people have failed to know what law is and what law is not, that they don't recognize that what was just put before them is not law?
Yep.
Wow.
You know what? That the prophet said enforce the Constitution, and the reason he said to enforce the Constitution is because, like I said, if you don't stand up for your rights, you don't have them. So, Constitution is basically the same thing. If you don't enforce the Constitution to preserve your birthright, which is not given to you. Look at this guy is saying, your right to travel is a privilege. It was given to you. How? Explain to me how my right to travel in any means, by any means, is a privilege. It's not a privilege for the people. It is a privilege for people who are engaging in commerce, meaning you are a chauffeur and you make your living picking up and dropping off people. That is a privilege. Yes, it is. It is a privilege for you to sit up in these so-called government buildings and write legislation that's supposed to be designed to protect me. That's a privilege, too. Yes, that's a privilege. That's a privilege that the people, some people, gave these government employees. And guess what? Just like the people gave it to them, the people can take it away.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. But that's the challenge. That's what it is, because all power is in the people.
That's right. Let me, because I read an article, and it was a very lengthy article. It was a very lengthy article, and in this article, it was written by a female. I don't know if she was Asiatic or modern European. But she went through all these various different case laws where so-called judges, district, and for trying to substantiate the right to travel. And I read almost the whole, it was like maybe a little thin booklet, and I read almost the whole thing. And the reason I read it was because I was interested to see what their thinking was. But not even long, I'm looking at these people as complete fools. Well, is it in the Third Amendment? Is it in the Fourth Amendment? No, it's in the Second Amendment. It's in the Third Amendment. What are you talking about? It's in the Ninth and the Tenth Bill of Rights. It's right there. If you're looking for your right to travel, it's in the Ninth and the Tenth Bill of Rights. It says, what is it? It says, I remember my favorite one. I don't know if it's 9 or 10, but both of them ties it up. And basically it says, if it's not in this Constitution, it's reserved to the people, the states, and the people respectively. What that means is if they didn't write that they can leave the people's right to travel or the state's right to travel, then they can't.
Mm-hmm.
It's reserved to them. And when it says state and people respectively, because I pondered on that for a long time before it came to me. It's talking about those people. To see a state is not a state unless there's people. No people ain't no state. So it's saying those people who choose to be members of the state, it's reserved to you. And those people who choose not to be members of the state or by birthright can never be members of the state, it's reserved to you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, these are a bunch of fools. It's right there in the 9th and the 10th Bill of Rights. But they was looking for it. But really what they was looking for was a way to circumvent and make a demand of income. And that's why they couldn't find it.
Right. So, I find it interesting too. Now, I'm just going back. I had taken some notes I meant to mention when you were saying that the way in which, wow, that's mind blowing what you just said. It is in 9th and 10th, and it is as it says. If it's not in here, it doesn't exist. There is no right to any of it. That's why it's so important that we enforce the Constitution and enforce those things, You had mentioned that this guy who was supposed to be a Grand Sheik in the temples and supposed to be enforcing the law of the land, National Constitution, basically was saying, look, you Moors, your right to travel is not hindered. You can just walk, ride a bike.
I know.
That is so hard. But what he said is, but if you want to get beyond that, the wheel, you better pay them and go to jail and do all that stuff. That's
yes.
what he's saying, man. That's messed up.
Your right to travel has not been hindered. You can walk.
If you don't like the way that the modern European and the municipality Roman soldiers is robbing you of your right to travel in any mode of conveyance as your liberty, infringing on your liberty, if you don't like it, well, too bad, just walk. That's terrible for him to say that. Horrifying. But I bet you he believes that that's right.
No courage.
Huh?
No courage.
That's less than courage. That's not. I hear you on that, but that can't be courage. That's stupidity. That's showing. I know you saying the reason behind it is possibly no courage, but that's
to exercise rights.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then you know what? Let's look at now this guy who is the temple member.
The echo going on.
Read. I think that's your mom's phone.
I'll tell you him, but he's not a temple member. He's a Grand Sheik of the temple. Put that on there too, which means he's guiding people that come through there.
Same thing.
Well,
temple member. But Congressman Stump of Arizona back in '85. Y'all remember that letter? He said because many law enforcement, they're not enforcing the law, by the way, personnel may be unaware of the contractual nature of the auto registration and driver's license. It is conceivable that this situation where you had those who have given up these driver's license, registration, and insurance may lead to confrontation between these individuals and the enforcement personnel. I urge you to inform yourself and your personnel about this matter as soon as possible. And if you would like someone knowledgeable on this subject, please contact me. In the meantime, inasmuch as this procedure is entirely appropriate, I would like to be personally notified. What did he say? This guy he's not done his research. And then there was another letter by some congressman of Pennsylvania. I'm trying to find his name. Rohrer. And he wrote that for Pennsylvania, they recoded Title 49 under Title 75. And he wrote that Title 75 can only properly be applied to commercial vehicles and commercial use of the road. An individual who wishes to utilize an automobile or other means of conveyance in order to exercise his right to travel cannot lawfully be required to obtain a license to drive or to register his automobile in order to operate it freely on our roads. This is from Congressmen of the United States of America. The same people who wrote or co-signed Title 49. The same that these are the congressmen that the municipal employees are supposed to be administering this motor vehicle safety program on behalf of. So this guy does not know what he's talking about, and appears to just be encouraging people to shut up, roll over, don't stand up for your rights by the municipal employees of various corporations. Don't see the whole premise of this land right here is the people are supposed to tell the public servants what they can and cannot do. This dude is saying the public servants are well within their rights to tell the people what they can and cannot do. Oh, my goodness.
Crazy.
Well.
Check this out.
Look.
From the Institutes of American Law, number 9. It says the law of nature or natural law is that which God, the sovereign of the universe, has prescribed to all men, not by any formal promulgation, but by the dictate of right reason alone. Meaning, going back to that case law you was talking about, leaving one to be the sole, it's on RV Bay Publications, leaving one to be the sole judge of their actions. Pardon me, I can't remember it verbatim. But I know it's on there where it talks about the quote state doesn't. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I'll find you real quick. That's a good one. That's a great one.
Yeah.
Amen.
And that's a matter of mental competence in your affairs, because their whole claim to telling the people what they can and cannot do is based in warship. That's what it is. This is military energy overtaking, right? Because it was the military manual that had the definition of republic and democracy, and that's mob rule. So, that's where the opposition is coming from that energy. But it says it is ascertained by just consideration of the agreeableness or disagreeableness of human actions to the nature of man. And we know man is mind. That's the mental thought process. Meaning, when they talking in law and they talking man and they're talking his possession and all of that, like that applies to, both of the so-called genders, male and female, mother and son, however you want to look at that. But it says, and it comprehends all the duties we owe either to the supreme being, to ourselves, or to our neighbors, as reverence to God, self-defense, temperance, honor to our parents, benevolence to all, a strict adherence to our engagements, gratitude, and the like. And I just want to yield on this note. It says, the law of nature, number 9, from out of the Institutes of American Law. It says the law of nature is superior in obligation to any other, meaning that, the law of nature is superior in obligation to any other. You tie that in with the Ninth Amendment as you were speaking. People have the natural right to do what they need to do for necessities to survive, as long as they're not injuring anybody else or fail to make them whole again if they do. So it says it is binding. Law of nature is binding in all countries and at all times. No human laws are valid if opposed to the law of nature, and which are binding, and all which are binding derive their authority either directly or indirectly from it. So you have to ask yourself, well, how did the license gain binding authority? What connection does it have with the law of nature? If you weigh that up with natural person or natural people versus artificial person, you see that this is not a binding. It does not derive its authority from the law of nature. So it's not a binding law. It's just a fact. It's not a law at all, really, So that being said, we got to really understand. It says, excuse me. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Nations with regard to each other. Oh, yeah, my fault. Go ahead. I was about to go.
I have it right here. As a matter of fact, this is on the gift. We give this away, and it's on the site under the open readings, the brochure called "Do You Know Your Rights?" And on the back side of that are 13 points of law that we put on there. And number 8 says, under the United States Republic constitutional system of government, and upon the individuality and intelligence of the citizen, the state does not claim to control one's conduct to each other, leaving one the sole judge as to all that affects oneself. So now this is where you're teaching civics for civilized people, for civilization.
Right.
This is where you're uplifting fallen humanity, starting with yourself. That's why the prophet said, I've given you enough to save an entire nation and save yourself. And I just wanted to say, where it says under the United States Republic constitutional system, that means whatever state, whether or it doesn't matter, that the Constitution itself is the law of the land. And if you know how you are tied to the land, it is your duty and obligation to enforce the national constitution for nationals that also gives, for nationals to enforce, that gives the rules and the law of this land for all who are on it, occupying on it, visiting or otherwise. And it's based in, as you said, Ms., common law, nature's law. That's what it's built. That's what it is under. So that's everybody. So that means everybody already has what they're looking for is already done. It's just that we're not enforcing. We're not enforcing the law of the land, and then crying about how we're being violated by people who are violating the law of the land, who have the obligation to enforce it. So now it does become what? If it's national, it's definitely international. So now it becomes international crimes and human trafficking and all of those things. But our people instead are trying to figure out, well, how can I get some finance? Not concerned about the fact that, as you also said, is that you have a right to do whatever you want, provided you do not infringe on anyone else's right to the same. That goes back to you have to be civil. You have to be, considerate. Well, if you were civil, then it wouldn't be any problem.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And when you cited that case,
a civic organization. Now we know that there was an affidavit on the door to religious freedoms work open both ways, but an infiltration thereof made it so that whatever he was doing appeared to be only someone's religious choice, and became coveted and became like a secret society thing. And when he said himself, I'm taking the covers off of that. So you have to study and know to be able to ferret through this. Islam.
Islam. And one of the things about that case law, it says, can you read it again up into the part where it said intelligence? Intelligence.
It said under this Republic's constitutional system of government and upon the individuality and intelligence of the citizen.
Right. That goes back to the fact that man is mind, right? And each natural being, you know, is assessed basically. Meaning, like, even when people catch certain cases and they do the preliminary hearings and things like that, and they might make a determination like this person is or is not, quote, competent to stand trial. Like, that's what they will say. Like, yeah, well, we found you competent to stand trial, or we found you not competent to stand trial, quote unquote. Now, I'm saying that to say that, not that it was up for them anyway, but it has a lot to do with your mentality. You know what I mean? Your mind state is assessed, and you need to know that they be looking for that. Like, they will check, you know what I mean, just to see, like, it's a mental test because they're meeting your mentality, and necessarily you know, so it's like you have to understand that. So correlating with what you said about the intelligence of the, quote, individual, it says, again, number 9, out of the Institutes of American Law, the law of nature or natural law is that which God, the sovereign of the universe. Now imagine that, if we was made in that image, and that sovereign, I'm not saying we're sovereign citizens, but how could you hate on that? Like, they're talking this in law, international law, American law. It's not a foreign language. Discouragement aspect of what that quote-unquote agenda is, to discourage people from the path, you know, to stay under the Christian jurisdiction. So it says, the sovereign of the universe has prescribed to all men, not by any formal promulgation, but by the dictate of right reason alone, meaning your thought process. When you look at the Kabbalion and it talks about the universe is mental, why wouldn't your mental be connected with the universe, meaning that people think and get divine inspirations? But again, you know, going back to the concept of free people versus slaves, Araminta Ross, so-called Harriet Tubman, speaking about that, she was like, look, I'm not trying to convince nobody to get on this path of freedom, because if you don't have that fire, I can't give it to you. And she was tapping into different dimensions you would never be able to tap into to be free. Why? Because she had, quote-unquote, dizzy spells, but this is what influenced her aspiration to be free. So by her getting hit in the head with the brick, similar to Hiram, or a woman getting hit in the head and buried in the shallow grave, she was able to, from recovering from that, tap into frequencies that, and I'm not saying anybody do something that you would see on ridiculousness and try to, you know, put your mentality there. I'm just saying certain things tap people's conscious, and they be on the frequency you can't even relate to. You would never tap into that certain inspiration. What helped her to heal was those inspirations of her feeling like she was so free she was flying over mountains and all of that. She wasn't crazy. She just tapped into a different source that was divinely meant for her to grasp up a courage that, you know, sometimes you really got to meditate and shed your thought process to get on the thought process of, you know, I don't know, but all I'm saying is what appeared to be a dizzy spell was actually an inspiration, a divine source of freedom. And I say that in the aspect that they say everything happens for a reason. What if she never got hit in the head with that brick? What if she never got those visions and things like that inspired her to inspire others? How would that have went? But I say that to say that continuing with this source from John Bouvier's Institutes of American Law, it says the law of nature is superior in obligation to any other, and it is binding in all countries at all times, and no human laws are valid if opposed to it, meaning that, nobody can stop your growth. The people, the will of the people is more supreme than anything, and that's really what it is. So, yeah, that's my piece on it. Oh yeah, my fault. I wanted to add this on too. Nations, with regard to each other, are considered as individuals, and the law of nations is to regulate the differences which may exist between them in their national capacity, not in their slave brand capacity. So, again, we're talking international law. And the fact that we have a nationality means more than we have a nationality, and you know who you know. Like, it has international ramifications. It has international latent potentials. If that definitely is imperative to turn kinetic if everybody is talking about this liberation that they want. Because I was speaking to a brethren the other day, and it was just crazy. Like, some of us are so disconnected from the land, and people talking about, I want to fight battles in the physical, so-called war and all of this. And I'm like, how could you do that and it's not over land? Like, you just basically in a battle to want to be in a perpetual battle. Your mind state, if you're not connected to the land, don't even talk about so-called war. Like, if you don't even understand your connection to the land, it's a pointless fight if you don't understand that. Because there's never been a, quote, war that wasn't about land and women. Bottom line, that's what it is. So, going back to being, to the civics, I'm not saying let's get on some guerrilla savage and, start going in. I'm just saying that is a conversation that people are talking about, whether it be on either side of the nationality, either side, because people are analyzing what's going on, the hatred, the prejudicial aspects of the disdain and for Muslims or Muslims, Moors, etc., and not just, but people from all over the planet, people getting shot down and not really on a consistent basis, and nobody's facing repercussions. This gives them that impression that, people are on a different level with it and not understanding the civics, the jurisprudence. Like, even when you quoted the case law about the intelligence, quoting and citing that case law in multiple situations, it's actually jurisprudence. So even though it might be a situation that is not the exact same, the concept, the intelligence of the statement being utilized is jurisprudence. And that is the science of law. That's what it is. So, it's nothing, quote, wrong with that, but when they don't understand the workings of jurisprudence, civics, internal justice, external justice, international law, private international law, Constitution, Treaty of Peace and Friendship, maxims, axioms, all of these things, divine law, it starts to get murky because people start playing God, people start judging, and are incompetent to even endeavor to do these things. So again, it says, all right, so nations with regard to each other are considered as individuals, and the law of nations is to regulate the differences which may exist between them in their national capacity. They are in a state of nature and must be considered as so many free and independent persons living in that state of nature, and therefore the rules of natural law are to be applied to them. All right, going back to the fact that the law of nature is superior in obligation to any other, and the Constitution embodies that all through it. Specifically, look at the Bill of Rights. So, I mean, this is what we're dealing with. People lacking understanding of law, jurisprudence, spirit of law, the meaning of words, but yet want to say what's right and what's wrong. Basically have no jurisdiction because they're under the Christian jurisdiction. They're under the Christian spells, and are looking at those who are not as if something is wrong with us. And really something is wrong with them. They're under a spell, Christian at that. So it's just sad when they take on the regalia and claim that they're repping Noble Drew Ali, when they claim that they're repping Moors, period, Like, we understand these people who went on the campaign and try to slander Moors. I mean, some of it I don't get, but, they're basically like, they never even, they always are rejecting the idea of being a Moor, in or out the temple. But whether you in and out the temple and you know about your Moorish history, like, you can't front on the necessity or the aspects and attributes of, the potency and potential of your nationality, like what it means in law, what it means in civilization, period, So, yeah, I wanted to make that point, that it's about natural law, law of nations, law of nature, and that's what it is. And if that's not the conversation, then you're talking about people who are slave-minded, because this is the same perspective that you saw in the negotiations, because people talk about wars, but generals had to sit down and talk the language, make treaties, constitutions. So you still got to know law. If you claiming that you're a warrior and you're not concerned with anything else, okay, well, you still got to know law, fam. Like, it is what it is, because even with the military, when they take an oath, they all take an oath to uphold the Constitution still. So, it's still about the civic aspect of, things. So, I don't know, but I yield the floor for now. So.
All right, Islam. It is 11:42, and what we're going to do is we're going to start taking callers. So if you have a question, comment, concern, and you would like to place it on the table, please press 1 on your cell phone dial, and we will begin to take calls. Let's see, we've already, we're already, the internet feed has gone down. It goes down to 11:30. So, if you, I apologize, I didn't put this message out before the internet feed went down, but I trust that anyone who's not able to listen to the last hour of this broadcast, they can download the archives and listen. So with that, we're going to start off with our first caller, Brother Bakari. Are you there?
Greetings.
Greetings.
Bakari.
Greetings. Oh, man. I am hot. I am hot on this issue, on this topic. And first of all, let me get back to protocol here. Honors to the panel, and thank you, the mothers and Ms. Raim for allowing me this platform and giving so that I can humbly share my thoughts on this issue. Also, quickly, thank you to RV Bay Publications for providing a surplus of information that allows people who have previously been under the web, if you will, of deceit and lies as it pertains, and also misinformation as it pertains to laws, statutes, codes, etc. I want to just also quickly preface that what I'm about to say is in no way unlawful, and I am not also making any statements that are not coming from a place of having actually looked this information up. Now, quickly, before I yield the floor, this individual, I feel, based on where I am in my studies at this point in time, who is supposedly a member of the Moorish Science Temple of America, and a Grand Sheikh, and an individual who is supposed to lead the people lawfully, is definitely either ignorant, grossly ignorant of law, and as a result of a lack of study, or misinformation, or a straight-out COINTELPRO agent designed to slow down the progress of the work that the Prophet came here to do, which was uplift fallen humanity, and his greatest vehicle for doing so, uplifting, he being the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, who was, or rather his greatest vehicle for uplifting us was to become knowledgeable about who we are as in terms of our bloodline and in terms of our relation through heritage to this continent, this landmass referred to as America or Northwestern Mectum, commonly by Moors, and so that was through knowledge and information. And so for that individual to make a statement that basically denies the sovereignty of Moorish Americans, and when I say sovereignty, I'm in no way speaking to the sovereign citizen movement and that was created and proliferated by foreigners who have no blood tied to this land, as we do in terms of its duration and through our aboriginal status as Moors, as Moorish Americans or Al-Moroccans, etc., a part of the Moroccan Empire historically. And so for him to make this statement or to get up in front of people and, expound on this information on behalf of the corporate state or various corporate states, which are a arm of the colonists and colonization of the Americas, is a drastic, or rather a serious issue, in which has affected not only Aboriginals but also other modern Europeans and other foreign nationals who have been unlawfully hindered by this type of activity. And so let me just also reference United States Code, U.S. Code, by the way, which many of these types of individuals like to expound upon. They speak of the U.S. codes, statutes, etc., and put them in many cases above the laws of the land, such as the Constitution and treaties, etc. And so I'll do the same in this particular case. However, I'm not placing it above the Constitution, just merely stating a fact. For those listening, United States Code 18 Code subsection 31, item 6, clearly defines what a motor vehicle is. And it states, for the record, I quote, "The term motor vehicle means every description of carriage or other contrivance propelled or drawn by mechanical power and used for commercial purposes on the highway in the transportation of passengers and property or cargo." Now, that's not RV Bay Publications didn't publish that, or rather didn't write that. Great Seal didn't write that. That was written based on a United States code, which can be found on the internet, in libraries, in any corner or in any law library, etc. Another item that I would like to speak on briefly here, because this is extremely upsetting. You know, this is essentially this activity in one of the, and I forget the article that I read while doing my studies in preparing for a previous case. The only thing that I can remember, the article was called "The Sword of Commerce." I can't remember the author of the article, but and I hate not giving specifics. That's not the right thing to do. But I wanna speak on this because of the fact that one of the things that the author spoke about was initially, and I have not confirmed this with specific quotations. The closest thing that has come to what I'm about to state is information in regards to Title 49. And Anna-Ede broke that down quite concisely early on. But basically it talks about that the initial utilization of the license was for specifically, again, commercial purposes, in which individuals were making some sort of fiat, not going to and fro to, take your children to the park, or, go to one location to another to go see a family member, to go pick up something from the store, or, travel your own personal property from one point to the next. And so it is quite clear that the specific language that is utilized in Title 18, or United States Code Title 18, it has specific language. If you go to the Black's Law Dictionary, when you define, or when you go to page 1064 for the definition of liberty, if anyone is inclined to take the time, freedom of locomotion or freedom of movement is clearly defined. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I'm just saying, yeah. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah,
I'm glad you brought that up. That's all I'm saying. Continue, bro.
Yeah. This is, something that is, like the old saying goes, it's in black and white. Now, I'm sure this is not the only law dictionary that it exists in. And again, these types of individuals who put out this misinformation like to always quote the corporate states, statutes and codes, etc. And they, but for some reason, they like to pick and choose which writings from, various entities, either from individuals that have compiled documentation about legal cases, law cases, statutes, codes, laws, etc., they like to pick and choose, and it seems that there is no consistency in when they do that and how they do that. The other thing that I wanted to just briefly touch on before I yield the floor is natural liberty, page 1066. The power of acting as one thinks fit, without any restraint or control, unless by the law of nature. And of course, there's a lot of different things that people can construe about that particular writing, but those who study will, comprehend what that means. And again, there's personal liberty, the right or power of locomotion, of changing situation or moving one's person to whatsoever place one's own inclination may direct. The last two things is quickly the definition of license on 1067, and these are all from the fourth edition of the Black Law Dictionary. But the last thing that I want to talk about here real quick is that, how the instrument, this license and this instrument has been utilized in to make finance, and how it has also been utilized to control the masses, because they not only use this thing to stop you from going to point A to point B to make finance, but in doing that, it's also utilized to hinder your or bring in more finance through other unlawful activity, which we can talk of, which breaks several of the Bill of Rights. So they utilize it while you're on the highway. Highwaymen stop you, and then they perform unlawful searches and seizures of property and equipment, etc., papers, fiat, whatever they can get, they'll take it. And this is information that has also been put out again by branches, if you will, of the U.S. The so-called United States of America. Case in point, in one case, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and I can't give you a specific article, pardon me for not having that, but that in one case, it talks about how in some of the corporate states, how so-called minorities have been targeted unlawfully, and their Bill of Rights, as enumerated by the Constitution, have been abridged. So that was amendment or number 4. And then the other one, is Amendment 5 when it speaks about crime. So what is a crime? Is me going to the store to get into a conveyance. Is that a crime if I don't have a license, which is not a requirement? Because I'm not in the process of making any fiat or conducting some sort of commercial activity. And how do you determine when you go into a so-called, like when you've been given a so-called ticket and that says it's been handed to you by the state of and the county of or a particular county, what does that really mean? And then they're asking you for, finance. So what does it really mean when a individual who calls themselves an officer or a patrolman hands you a document that says the state of, and he's working for the local county? Like, what does that mean? And then you go into one of their venues, and everybody there is an officer of the court. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I just wanted to bring these, things up. I think I've already gone over my time, so it's sad, and I respectfully yield the floor at this time.
All right. I'm next. Thank you so much for that. But, those are excellent food for thought. All right? So everybody, please, this is not just for Moors. This is for all people on this Moroccan American soil, for everybody. All right? So everyone needs to think about these things. So with that, we're going to take our next caller, and I believe this is Sister Jayana. Is this you, Sister Jayana?
Yes, peace and love.
Oh, thank goodness.
All
right. Please.
Hey, I have something interesting for you guys. Something I found, but so it's for, and it goes in hand with the topic. So I'm just going to read it. To all deputy registrars from Tom Holler, Administrative Field Operations, date October 1st, 2014. Name change procedures reminder. Name change procedures reminder. As a reminder, in order to change a name on an Ohio driver's license or Ohio identification card, name change acceptable documentation must be presented. We have had several instances where customers have presented documents that look official, but after closer inspections are not acceptable for a name change. Recently, one issue for name change has to do with adding L or Bay or both to the name for an Ohio driver's license or Ohio identification card. L or Bay is a type status, chieftain, or a tribal chief in certain religions. As you know, we do not allow under any circumstances the addition of a status or title of any type on an Ohio driver's license or Ohio identification card. So I just wanted to know what you guys thought about that. What was put out over
so
here.
Why do they? So that would mean that all of their religious ministers and all of those, their driving instruments. And I can understand what they're saying. I can't, because the driver's license is for commercial activity. So what does your religion? What they're saying is, what does your religion have to do with how you are generating commerce?
And it's talking about whether your status have to do with it as well, because it said it's under no circumstances do we add additions of a status or a title. Because remember, the L and Bay is a title. So
that's right. That's right.
Well, what's that saying? That's a mouthful there.
It really is. It's
yeah.
And you know, at first glance, people who tried to do it, you know, they was really mad. But if you really read it, you know, it's really telling the truth. You know what I mean? It's not really whatever. And then to me, I would use it as in, you know, just to counter them. So, for instance, if they say, well, you know, why you don't have a driver's license? And it's like, oh, well, I got your document. It says that you can't put an L or a Bay or anybody of any type of high status or with a title. You know, you didn't get the memo, you know, because this is the memo, you know. And, you know, and that's that. And you could just go by that. And you can't, you know, how could they make that a crime when it's something that they said that they don't allow in their, you know, their corporation or their business, which is, you know, which they have the right to. I mean, I'm not mad, but don't try to force me when you know, when you saying one thing on one end and then another on another. So, I don't know. I just thought that was interesting, and I just wanted to share with you guys and see what you thought about it.
That is an excellent point. Excellent point. Like, you know, but you know what? And see, that's coming that's coming from the state. So basically, what the state is saying, without saying, is that, look, y'all don't need this thing.
Yeah. And states can't grant titles of nobility, as it says in the Constitution.
That's correct.
Yes, that's right. So they like,
and I said that before.
Yeah, they're like, That's
So
extending beyond their jurisdiction.
exactly, which is the whole point of why we're not under their jurisdiction. Bottom
That's
line,
right.
like that's it. They're saying, look, we Christians, so-called state, whatever, quasi-national, really, but that's what it is with them. So that's what I'm saying by the fact that our salvation is in us. Like, that's what it is. Being what Noble Drew Ali said, Moors are men, minds, mentality, right? People, not excluding the woman, upright, independent, and fearless. So, I mean, like, what else you need to know? You translate that onto an international scale or a national scale, like, that's talking about nationality, you know, actually moving as a non-dependent people, you know, and even what they're doing right now, trying to, you know, cut off a lot of dependabilities and things like that. It's just telling us it's that time, you know. It is what it is to keep being ourselves, you know. And if you're not, then you got to be yourselves. And we can't really necessarily look to them to establish that. Like, you know, that's what it is. So.
Yeah. It's that time to either make change or be forced to make a change. And that's exactly what you're saying. So that's what it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Islam.
All right. Thank you so much for that call. That was some good information.
Sure enough.
You're muted, Ron.
Oops. All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'm saying that is wonderful. That's a good, solid strategy right there.
Yes, it is.
All right.
All right. So with that, we're going to take our. Hold on. We're going to take our next caller. Thank you so much, Sister Gianna. All right, caller 410760. You are live on air. Please state your appellation and Northwest Memphis.
Islam, beloved, I am Hassan Ghazi Obey at Northwest Mexham. How's the family?
Islam, we're fine. How are you?
Doing great, doing great. This is an excellent broadcast. A few things here at the front of the beginning of the broadcast about working together to better come together and making remedies so that we'll be able to, you know, exercise our right to travel freely as one that does and has been for the past 6 months or so after really studying or whatever. What I've really discovered is it does really come down to a pure heart and sincere intent. And after working with a few nationals to bring it together, along with the information that was given via Moore's Order Roundtable and RV Bay Publications, what I actually have discovered is we do come together in unity when we really have the same goal. We're not arrogant in the knowledge that we have and sharing it. Where there was an opportunity for mothers and sons to actually work together cohesively and effectually to continue exercising the right to travel. So I would definitely say, like, this was just an awesome broadcast and confirmation for one, and for two, I would definitely encourage all nationals and all people that are on the land, period, because one thing about the supreme law of the land is that when you remove the water from the planet, there's still land. So I kind of look at the supreme law of the land as just for everyone in the world, period, when you just kind of just looking at the words. So when we come together in unity to exercise any inalienable right, I think when we do it in full love with no pretensions or arrogance, like, we'll truly, truly be successful. So I really appreciate this broadcast, family. I love you. Islam, I yield the floor. Peace and love.
Islam. And you're so right, and that's why the prophet said, that this is the prophets come to send the messages to all four corners of the earth, and yes, unity, uniting of Asia. But they got to study first in order to know who's who, what is what law is and what law is not. Islam.
Wow.
All right, Islam. All right, our next caller 972-839. You're live on the air. Please state your affiliation at Northwest Mexico.
Islam.
Islam.
This is Brother Abdul Malik Shakur. Islam, man. This is Brother Abdul Malik Shakur Bay. I'm calling from Northwest Mexico, Texas Republic Territory. Great show, another great show. Cujo, I know he's listening in his endeavors, his business. I hear you at the beginning of the show, man. More power to him, blessing and peace be with him. We got to remember that the common law consists of those archaic principles, uses, and rules of action applicable to government and security of persons and property, which do not rest for their authority upon any express and positive declaration of the will of the legislature. And so the common law predates the contemporary legislature derived laws. This should give one a better understanding about inedible rights being natural and first. Now, you're speaking on the so-called driver license, the ID, the corrections of name, and going into the court system. Now, for those who need to study, RV Bay publications have multiple informations. The judicial or court method of changing one's name is merely an affirmance and aid of the common law. Thus, the common law, if you don't know what, underline that. Look up common law. Common law by superiority established supreme validation and suffices to serve public notice for declaration of a name correction and change. You're driving? No, you was here when I was on the shore when I seen you coming on the ship waving to get off and get on this part, as you call America, the North Gate of Mexico, the empire. Now, look at the international community also affirms our support in written documents as following. In Article 2, the indigenous individuals and people are free and equal to all other individuals, people in dignity and rights, and have the right to be free from any kind of adverse discrimination, in particular that based on the indigenous origin or identity. Part 2, Article 8, indigenous people have the collective and individual right to maintain, and develop their distinct identities. Underline that. Distinct identity. You're a Moroccan American. Why? Because we are descendants of Moroccan born in America. We ain't Indian. This is not Indian. This is a Mexican. Al Moroccan, the North Gate, a Mexican. So, from the Declaration of Human Rights, again, we have witnesses. The United General Assembly, December the 10th, 1948, Resolution 217, Article 15. 1, everyone has the right to a nationality. 2, no one shall be arbitrated, deprived of his nationality, nor denied the right to change his nationality. From the Declaration of Rights of the Child, the United Nations General Assembly, 1959, Principle 3, every child, you got a baby, well then your neighbor got a baby, my sister or my brother got a baby, every child shall be entitled from birth to a name and nationality. Because why was the nationality more taken away? Because they honor now the principles of their forefathers and foremothers. We done forgot who we are. We go out serving the gods of Europe. We go into everything that we open our eyes wide to, and we thinking we learning something new. Everything comes from the Moabites that done raised us up as a nation, and you done turned it over, sold it out, flipped it up. Mind me of Malcolm. You've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, and straight out lied to. He has some more words out me now. I'm cutting it short. But from the Declaration of the Rights of the Human Child, United Nations General Assembly, I read that. That is what we are bringing ourselves back to. Our illustrious Pop Noble Drew Ali came and had on the cover of 101 who? Not the male, the Mo, the Bay, but the Mobile. Why? Because she was unconscious. These Europeans, with the help of those so-called Moors, helped to put her unconscious. Now, Rosmara, Nadia, with the team at RB Bay Publications, are helping the Mobile to uplift her, to wake us up, and to reclaim our estate. Islam, I relieve the flow.
Islam.
There it is.
Islam. All right. Well, we have no more callers. And let's see. It is 20 after what? 12. And so what we're going to do is we're going to conclude this broadcast. I thank everyone for listening, for participating. I trust it has given you food for thought. And let's see, tomorrow, please. I am so looking forward to everyone listening from another book, or I'll be reading from the book, and I'm going to continue reading. And I'm trusting that everyone will continue to enjoy my reading skills, and that you gain some information and enlightenment from the information that's going to be read tomorrow. And I am so looking forward to people participating in the discussion, because this is a huge piece of information that has not been provided intentionally in our study, and we need it, because once you know who is who and what is what, and then you start looking at certain events, it changes the entire board. So I trust everyone enjoyed today's discussion and that you gained some information, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow for some more information, so that we can have some additional things to ponder that will propel us to research and look up more, because there's so much out there. And so we need more people who are going to go and look up this information, bring it to the table, and, hey, we don't have to be the only ones for doing a presentation. The prophet said there's work for us all, and he ain't never lied. So with that, once again, thank everyone for joining us today. Thank you, callers. Thank you, internet listeners. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Peace and love.
Peace and love. Love.
Right.
Our problem is lack of knowledge and the intended deceit and trickery done, because even those who read the bibliotheology that you call the Bible says he shall fool even the most believe. So even those who think they're highly educated and this and that, they've been fooled. That's it. It's not really complicated.
It's the miseducation of the Negro. Everybody knows it to those who need to know. It's the miseducation of the Negro. When we rise from the dead, they call us Pharaoh. It's the miseducation of the Negro. Everybody knows except those who need to know. It's the miseducation of the Negro. When we rise from the dead, they call us Pharaoh. The gods are back. The Moors are strapped. We waking up. And we want our land back, running off, that's a trap. You know them guys don't like that. Waking up from a nap, like where the hell my crown at? Take a step back, like I know this bitch ain't bite back. It's kinda crazy how this karma it strikes back. We enslaved the Slavs, so they slaved us right back. We called them niggas, then they nigga this right back. We brought them to light, but they ain't bring that right back. If I was lazy, dirty dancing with the baby, then just maybe won't revolt like Haiti. I too smart, love a tour, Marcus Garvey, your ass. Nova Junior, our leading God body demand. Now I ain't gotta be bad, and you ain't gotta be mad, but the planet is heating up, so the first I'll be last. I got that melanin that's better than anything you ever medicine. We at your front door, wonder why you never let us in. Oh, I get it, you never wanted to put some credits in. Well, just forget it, cause I don't know if you can edit sin. We've been enlightened long before Thomas Edison. Skeletons to prove that you wasn't even relevant. In the Caucasus Mountains, cause the sun was your deficit. Captain Caveman with the plan of the Jesuits. Check my bloodline, but in time I bring the evidence. Self-governing body, so I don't need no president. Democrat, Republican, donkey versus elephant. I studied in law, so I ain't down with none of that. I self-law and master, so I'm running that. This Molotov cocktail burns faster, so I like the match. Despite the fact that ain't even what I'm mad at. I spit the truth, so here's the roof, so you can yeah that. My skin is brown and here's the proof, but you ain't hearing that. Dead in the eyes of the law, that's why they call you black. Naming all caps when you fall, that's why I strike back. And strike that from the record ab initio. You gon' need more than some pressure, I got a vicious flow. I can take the road to the high, or I can hit them low. Try to calcify my third eye, or you gon' have to go. Chemtrails all over the sky, and you don't wanna know. Don't go inside of my tribe, they coming no more.
If you believe that your history started on a slave boat. I can guarantee you that's where it ended too. That's what I'm saying. Then, after saying that, and so don't believe me, go back and do some studies past the 1700s, and I'll guarantee you, sure as you're sitting there listening or wherever you are, watching, listening, you will find nothing but the word more. And that's another thing. Because we weren't called black. That description, maybe, black or more or whatever, but that's it. Know the difference between a description and an actual, person, place, or thing, noun. I mean, really.
It's the miseducation of the Negro. Everybody knows it to those who need to know. It's the miseducation of the Negro. When we rise from the day they call us Pharaoh. It's the miseducation of the Negro. Everybody knows it to those who need to know. It's the miseducation of the Negro. When we rise from the day they call us Pharaoh. From the pyramids to the project, the beginning is the part they want you to forget. Implant your memory with that noose around your neck. It's the King Alfred plan and it's set in full effect. The butler, the help, and 12 years a slave. Django and Selma, they get them accolades. They made a movie called Exodus about the gods and kings with an all-white cast from Egypt. Now that's a shame. They ain't never seen no movie about no European slaves. We were traveling the seas when they was living in caves. We had to civilize them, show them how to behave. In fact, we brought them light and taught them how to bathe. This is trading places with stolen identity. We agreed to be educated by our own enemy. Reverse psychology, I'ma need a lobotomy. An exorcism just to get this shit about of me. Roz Mariah, Anna Eve, Miss Raheem, Tariq, Cujo from Cannonland. Listen to them speak. I done learned from the best. I don't need no DNA test. The nations in my womb has given from the breast. The empire's back, so you know what's next. The Moors are waking up, now you must confess. Yes, yes. The Moors are waking up, now you must confess.
Birthright theft. The whole deal was, where's my land that, for them? The whole deal was, this is really quote-unquote promised land. This is really the quote-unquote heart of civilization. This is really what you might call Northwest Africa. That's what, and I say that to people so they can stop saying I'm going back to Africa and understand that they're in it. It's the Garden of Eden.
That's what they had in Columbus's journal that they arrived in Eden.
So what has happened is absolute lies. That's right. And the land of milk and honey is another terminology. So these things are important because as you're doing studies, and if it says the land of milk and honey, you need to know they're talking about the North American continent. If you don't know that, then you miss it. And that's part of our problem. That part of our problem is the miseducation. We have been lied to, lied to, lied to, lied to, lied to, lied to.
This is your first fish.
I got one.
Father's Day, a day to say thanks to the most important guy in the world. This year, get him what he really wants at Cabela's Father's Day sale. Don't miss our 8 a.m. doorbusters. 5 hours only on June 10th. Get $50